The Indiana Fever just kicked off training camp, and the intensity is already off the charts. Caitlin Clark is back on the court with her teammates, but this isn't the same Fever team that limped through last season. With a reloaded roster, a cautious coach, and a superstar who hasn't played meaningful basketball in 8 months, the energy in Indianapolis is different. But here's what nobody's talking about. The Fever don't need Clark to be superhuman anymore. They just need her to be ready. And the way she's moving in practice, she's ready.
That way to me, like, it's a very close-knit group, like everybody supports one another, but then you have the professional sports teams, and that's what everybody's most passionate about here, and that's what I love about it. People really show up. A lot of these fans, like these have been their teams since they've been 5 years old.
The Indiana Fever training camp officially begins Sunday, April 19th. 16 players, 1 week of preparation, 1 preseason game on April 25th against the Dallas Wings, and 1 superstar who hasn't played meaningful WNBA basketball in 8 months. Caitlin Clark is back, but this time, everything is different. Let me take you inside what's happening in Indianapolis, because the energy around this team is unlike anything the Fever have ever experienced. First, the roster. The Fever brought back almost everyone who mattered. Kelsey Mitchell signed a $1.4 million supermax. Sophie Cunningham re-signed. Lexi Hull is back. Aaliyah Boston is healthy. Nneka Agwamake joined. Monique Billings signed. Tyasha Harris came home. And then there's the draft pick everyone is talking about. Raven Johnson, the South Carolina guard who was famously waved off by Clark in the 2023 Final Four, is now her teammate. The Fever have depth, they have experience, they have youth, they have everything a championship contender needs. But here's the thing about championship contenders. They need their best player healthy, and that's where the caution comes in.
The Fever have a championship roster. They have depth. They have experience. They have everything a contender needs. But they also have a head coach who has learned a painful lesson. Stephanie White watched Caitlin Clark go down last season. She watched her superstar limp off the court, miss 27 games, and spend 8 months rehabbing a groin injury and a bone bruise in her ankle. She's not letting that happen again. "We've got to be smart," White said in a recent interview on Query & Company. "We want to continue to ramp her up. It's a long season, 44 games, and we play a heavy cadence of games in a week." 44 games. That's the new WNBA schedule. More games, more travel, more wear and tear on players' bodies. And White is determined to make sure Clark survives all of it. Here's the plan. First, Clark won't take every rep in practice. White wants to manage the reps and be selective about what kinds of reps she's getting. Translation: Clark won't be doing full contact scrimmages every day. She won't be grinding through two-a-days like a rookie trying to make the team. Second, White is using Clark's Team USA experience as a built-in advantage. Clark played 5 games for Team USA during the FIBA World Cup qualifiers in March, averaging 14.6 points and 6.4 assists. That gave her game pace, game rhythm, and game timing that most players don't have heading into camp. "We have an added advantage in that she played games in March with USA Basketball," White explained. "And so she has game exposure, she has game pace, she has game rhythm, she has game timing. So we have an advantage." Third, the Fever are thinking long-term. White isn't trying to win training camp. She's trying to win a championship in October. "We want to be smart in camp and make sure that we manage the reps just to build her up so that she's ready to go, and we don't have any kind of questions about that," White said. The Fever don't need Clark to be superhuman in April. They need her to be healthy in May, June, July, August, and September. And that means being patient now. But here's the thing about Clark. She's not the kind of player who likes being held back. She's a psycho competitor, as White has called her. She wants to be on the court. She wants to take every rep. She wants to prove she's the best. So how does White manage that tension? How does she tell a competitor like Clark to slow down? That's the challenge of the 2026 season. And the Fever's championship hopes depend on White getting it right.
While other WNBA stars were resting or working out privately, Caitlin Clark was playing actual basketball. 5 games for Team USA during the FIBA World Cup qualifiers in March. Not scrimmages, not practices, real games with real stakes against real opponents. And according to Stephanie White, that's going to make all the difference. She has game exposure, she has game pace, she has game rhythm, she has game timing, White said. So we have an added advantage. Let me break down what that means. Most players come into training camp after months of individual workouts. They've been in the gym, they've been lifting weights, they've been running drills. But nothing replicates game speed. Nothing replicates the decision-making required when defenders are closing out and the shot clock is winding down. Clark got that in March. She played against Italy. She played against Senegal. She played against some of the best players in the world. I think that gave her some confidence, White said. She's in a good spot physically and mentally. And that's the key, confidence. Clark is the best player in the league, but confidence isn't automatic. It's built through repetition, through success, through proving to yourself that you still have it. Clark proved that in March. Now she's bringing that confidence into training camp. It's just fun to watch her and Aaliyah Boston and the connection that they have. They're so fun to coach. The Team USA experience wasn't just about getting Clark ready for the WNBA season. It was about reminding her that she's still Caitlin Clark, that she's still the best player in the world, that she still belongs. And now, with training camp underway, that confidence is infectious. The Fever have a loaded roster. They have veterans who've been there before, they have young players eager to prove themselves, but they also have a superstar who just spent a month reminding the world why she's the face of the league. That's an advantage no other team can claim, and the Fever are going to use it.
There's one player at Fever training camp who everyone is watching. Not Caitlin Clark, not Kelsey Mitchell, not Nalika Agwemeke. Raven Johnson. The rookie guard was the most controversial draft pick of the 2026 class, not because of her talent. She was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year and a national champion at South Carolina, because of her history with Clark. The 2023 Final Four, the wave-off, the viral moment that reduced Johnson's entire college career to a 10-second clip. And now, she's Clark's teammate. Training camp is where that relationship will be tested. I think people are making a bigger deal out of it than it actually is, Johnson said before camp began. We're both competitors. We both want to win. The past is the past. I've moved on. She's moved on. But moving on is easier said than done. The first time Clark and Johnson share the same court, the first time they run a drill together, the first time they're in the same huddle, the entire gym will be watching. Every interaction will be analyzed. Every glance will be scrutinized. And Johnson knows it. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about getting better. I'm worried about learning the system. I'm worried about helping this team win. Everything else is noise. That's the right attitude, but attitude doesn't always translate to chemistry. The Fever are counting on Johnson to be their defensive stopper, their enforcer, the player who guards the other team's best perimeter player so Clark doesn't have to. That role requires trust. It requires communication. It requires a relationship that goes beyond "we're both professionals." Training camp is where that relationship will be built. Raven is a phenomenal defender, Stephanie White said. She's going to make us better on that end of the floor, and I think she's going to fit in great with our group. The Fever have all the pieces, the stars, the veterans, the depth, the coaching, but chemistry isn't automatic. It has to be earned. And Raven Johnson has 5 days of training camp to earn it.
So where does this leave us? The Indiana Fever training camp is officially underway. 16 players, 1 week of preparation, 1 preseason game, and a superstar who hasn't played meaningful WNBA basketball in 8 months. Caitlin Clark is back, but this time, everything is different. The Fever don't need her to be superhuman. They need her to be healthy. They need her to be smart. They need her to trust her teammates. And according to Stephanie White, that's exactly what Clark is doing. She's in a good spot physically and mentally, White said. We want to be smart in camp and make sure that we manage the reps. The Fever have a championship roster. Kelsey Mitchell is back on a supermax. Aaliyah Boston is healthy. Nneka Ogwumake joined. Sophie Cunningham re-signed. Monique Billings re-signed. Lexi Hull is back.
Monique Billings and Tyasha Harris signed. Raven Johnson was drafted. But here's the truth that nobody's talking about. The roster is loaded, but the chemistry is unproven. Caitlin hasn't played with most of these players in a meaningful game. Ogwumake is new, Billings is new, Harris is new, Johnson is a rookie. Training camp is where chemistry is built, where trust is earned, where roles are defined, and the Fever only have 1 week. It's a long season, White said. 44 games. We play a heavy cadence of games in a week. We've got to be smart about how we use everybody. The Fever's championship hopes don't rest on one player. They rest on a team. And that team is coming together right now in Indianapolis on a practice court that most fans will never see. Caitlin is ready. White is cautious. The roster is loaded. Now they have to prove it. So here's what I need from you. If you made it to the end of this video, you just watched a championship contender take its first steps. The Indiana Fever training camp is intense. The roster is loaded. The expectations are higher than ever. But chemistry takes time. Trust takes time. Championships take time. The Fever have 5 days of training camp to start building something special. Subscribe. Hit that bell icon, because when the preseason tips off on April 25th and Clark steps on the court for the first time in a Fever uniform since her injury, you're going to want to be here to watch it happen. Camp is set. The intensity is real. Now the work begins.